Chapter 1. The Awakening. Selene floated in a kaleidoscope of color and sound, each hue seeming to pulse with its own heartbeat. Vines of brilliant emerald twisted beneath her bare feet, spiraling upward into a sky that bled from dawn pink to midnight blue without warning. She felt weightless. When she raised her hand, the horizon bent to her will, morphing distant mountains into shimmering dunes. With the faintest sigh, she stirred a wind that rustled the leaves of jewel-toned trees. This can't be real, yet it felt more alive than the cramped one-room dwelling she knew so well. A sudden chill snaked across her skin. Shadowy silhouettes emerged at the edges of her vision, too vague to define but unsettling in their intent. The air crackled with tension, and the sky churned from a pastel swirl to a foreboding charcoal. Selene's breath caught in her throat. She tried to mold the dream, to push the shadows away, but they remained anchored. One figure lifted an indistinct arm, and a ripple of blackness flared outward. Instantly, the surreal beauty collapsed into a gray void. She awoke with a gasp, heart pounding as though it wanted to batter its way out of her chest. The memory of that velvety dreamscape clung to her mind, each vivid color now fading like ink sinking into parchment. Blinking the sleep from her eyes, Selene surveyed her reality. Walls with chipped paint, a sagging cot, and a lone fluorescent bulb sputtering overhead. The small living space was more a prison than a home, tucked in a dilapidated complex that the government had long ago stopped maintaining. Slowly she sat up, brushing short strands of shoulder-length brown hair behind her ears. Her clothes, a threadbare shirt and faded pants, bore patches upon patches, each a testament to her impoverished life. From the alley below came the distant hum of people stirring, readying themselves for another day of menial work and bureaucratic scrutiny. She inhaled, longing for the sweetness of her dream, but finding only stale air tinged with iron and dust. Morning dragged her into routine. Selene flicked on the rickety stove, heating the last spoonful of tea leaves in a dented pot. While the water heated, she surveyed the gloom outside her window. Distant towers of chrome and glass stood on the horizon, glittering fortresses where the elite lounged in curated bliss. Their dreams, everyone said, were designed to be restful and refined, courtesy of the government's official Dream Management Bureau. Meanwhile, those in Selene's district received only oppressive nightmares, or worse, the echoing emptiness of unsatisfying sleep. She poured the weak tea into a chipped mug and took a tentative sip, trying to ignore the persistent shiver lingering at the base of her neck. Ever since she was a little girl, her dreams had been different. She never spoke about them, not even to Sophia, her best friend. Talking about uncontrolled dreams was dangerous. People disappeared for less. No one wanted to become the next cautionary tale whispered about in grimy corridors. Outside, the city coughed and stumbled into motion. Selene navigated a narrow lane with puddles that reflected the morning's hazy light. Overhead, propaganda screens flashed messages extolling the virtues of the government's dream control. Stability for all, the slogans promised, interspersed with warnings that those who meddled with dreams put society at risk. A vendor's cart squeaked by, offering stale bread at prices no one could really afford. In the distance, an enforcer in a black uniform barked instructions at two older men who lowered their heads in silent obedience. The air tasted of rust, as if the entire district was decaying from the inside out. "Selene," a voice called from behind. She turned to see Sophia jogging to catch up, her own attire just as worn, a second-hand jacket, shoes scuffed at the toes, yet her eyes sparkled with concern and something like hope. "Hey," Selene said, mustering a faint smile. "You look like you barely slept." Sophia's tone was gentle. "Was it bad again?" Selene exhaled. She and Sophia had known each other since they were children, but Selene still hesitated to reveal too much. "Weird dream," she said vaguely. "It's nothing." Sophia slowed her pace. "Take care of yourself. People around here are whispering about more vanishings, someone rumored to have dream powers. I just worry sometimes." Selene's stomach tightened. "I'll be fine." They walked in tense silence, parting ways at the entrance to an industrial factory that loomed like a steel beast. Selene would spend the next 8 hours in a mind-numbing assembly line, her body going through motions while her mind drifted. By midday, she had a break long enough to stand outside, among co-workers who traded hushed rumors. Someone mentioned that a man with odd visions had been taken from his home by enforcers. Another whispered about Dreamweavers, those rumored to shape dreams as they pleased. Selene kept her face impassive, but her heart pounded at the word. Dreamweavers. It felt like a name for the very thing she feared, a label for the raw control she'd briefly tasted in her own dream. Outside, a gust of wind kicked up dust around them. The barbed wire fence that enclosed the factory's yard rattled, and overhead, a surveillance drone glided like a mechanical hawk. Selene glanced around, feeling eyes on her, but no one paid attention. Why would they? The shift ended in a mechanical whirl of final conveyor belts, and Selene trudged through the factory gates into the dusky light. Shadows stretched along the street, warping the outlines of buildings into ominous shapes. She passed a public screen, mounted on a crumbling wall. It displayed bright, comforting scenes of the upper districts, lush gardens, glistening walkways, and smiling citizens who apparently had everything they could want. Selene had heard that some of them drifted to sleep on plush mattresses, lulled by government-engineered lullabies that shaped pleasant, harmless dreams. How different must their world be, she mused. Halfway home she felt it again, that prickling sensation on the back of her neck, the same feeling she'd had this morning when stepping outside. She turned sharply. Across the street, a stranger in plain clothing froze, then hastily blended into a group of passers-by. Selene's pulse surged. Was someone following me? She quickened her steps, slipping into a side alley where she could duck behind crates. Heart hammering, she dared a peek around the corner, but the stranger, whoever they were, had vanished into the drab sea of people. Nightfall brought the stench of garbage fires and the hum of neon signs blinking out half their letters. In her tiny room, Selene shoved aside a worn blanket that doubled as a curtain, letting the city's flickering light illuminate the interior. She rummaged for any leftover food but found only a heel of stale bread. Her eyes flicked to the battered clock on the wall. It was late, yet sleep both tempted and terrified her. Eventually, weariness overcame caution. She collapsed onto her cot, hugging herself as she drifted into uneasy slumber. The dream returned, vivid as before, but this time the swirling colors didn't reassure her. The same shadowy figures hovered at the perimeter, closer now, their forms distorting the dream's luminous edges. A metallic tang filled the air. She lifted her hand, willing the dreamscape to stay bright, but the figures crept nearer, like living silhouettes that devoured color. One figure came so close that she almost glimpsed a face, a flash of eyes, intense and focused. The sky roiled overhead, flickering with stormy reds. Then a surge of darkness rippled outward, as if cast by an invisible hand, shattering the dream's pastel hues. Selene gasped awake. Sweat beaded on her brow. She lay there, chest heaving, listening to the ragged rhythm of her own breath. The tiny room felt colder than before, claustrophobic in its silence. She swung her legs over the side of the cot, pressing her palms to her temples. That was when she noticed it, a faint glow emanating from her left hand. Her heart nearly stopped. In the dim light, her palm was marked by the soft outline of something luminous, a subtle shape she couldn't fully discern. She rubbed furiously at her skin, but the glow persisted, flickering like a dying ember. The reality of it doused any lingering threads of sleep. What was happening to her? She curled her palm into a fist, forcing herself to steady her breathing. Peering through the window, she scanned the alley below, empty, silent. The hush of the night offered no answers. The mark's glow receded, leaving behind the barest trace, barely visible but impossible to forget. At that moment, Selene felt more alone than ever, more frightened too. In her dreams she possessed an uncanny power. She could mold the impossible. But here, in a world weighed down by oppression, that power felt like a curse, a beacon that could draw the very forces she feared. Still trembling, she fumbled for the thin blanket, pulling it tight around her shoulders. There was no going back. Her dreams were changing, and with them, so was she. If the rumors were true, if those who could control dreams were truly hunted, then she had stumbled onto a path as dangerous as it was inevitable. In the stillness, Selene forced herself to breathe slower, calmer. She stared at the faint glow until it disappeared altogether, leaving her palm as plain as before, except she knew now it wasn't plain at all. And she knew, with the marrow-deep certainty of a dreamer awakened, that her life would never be the same.